On 9/11 in 2001, okay, when the towers were hit, um, there was a geomagnetic response, and Greg Braden is the one who talks about this, okay? It's very fascinating if you've ever seen his video on it, because apparently he's seen the data, and that was in the geomagnetics, not specifically the Schumann resonance, but the Schumann is an electromagnetic energy as well. Okay, so I've never seen anything from the Schumann from that day, but just Greg's data about the geomagnetics. So ever since I have started watching the Schumann, I have noticed that periodically the images of the towers, in my opinion, come up on the chart. And I've been tracking this for years now. So when I started tracking it, you know, I started writing about the Schumann and this chart in 2019, and I started making videos in 2020. So 19, 20. So I'm going on my fifth year of publishing about it. Prior to that, I'd started watching the chart, let's say by 2013, maybe a little in 2020, but really it was 2013. So it's been probably about 10, 11 years now. Okay. So it took like 7 years to get ready or 5 years to get ready, however how many it was. And then I was actually writing on the internet at that time, but um, those are all in an archive somewhere. And it wasn't about the Schumann. It was about, I was writing about the sun and some other stuff. Okay. So in 2019, what happened was I started to see what I felt like were very clear images of the towers. It was over and over and over. I would just remember it so clearly. And what I kept seeing was the towers and the explosions, the towers and the explosions. And in fact, I did my first video on this. I did my first Schumann video on this. Yeah. So I will put a link to that right now so that you guys can see it. Okay, so let me put that in the chat if I can get to it easily. I might be able to. Um, see if I can do that. Uh, and the other thing that I did is I did a video recently about my experience with 9/11 and how that changed my life. So yeah, here's the video. Here's my first Schumann video. Okay, just for you guys. I can put this in the link, in the links. Hold on. There you go. So that's that video there. Um, Sept Towers. I'll just write September Towers video. So all right, so that's there. So you can bookmark it or whatever. Take a look at it if you want. So I did a video and I'm going to put this in as well. If you haven't seen it and you're interested in a little bit about like who is this talking, um, here it is. This is my experience related to that event. Now, I wasn't in that event, thank God. And the reason why is because I had dreams about it beforehand. I had 2 dreams about it beforehand, and so I completely changed my life because of those dreams. I changed my life, and I changed my career, and that's how I ended up doing this, to be honest. This is just all like, all came to here right now, me talking to you, all of you. This is it. This is what 9/11 did for me. So I'm grateful for the change that I made because as you will see in the video, if you watch it, I had a premonition, I had dreams before it happened. I didn't understand them, but I knew if I didn't get out of my career, I could be caught in this event that I dreamed about, and then I chose to I chose to live and, you know, continue my adventure as as a soul embodying the human form on earth. So here I am doing that right now. So I talked all through that in the video. So for me, this is something very close to my heart. And that might be why I pay attention to this in the Schumann. That's the first thing that I want to say about seeing the towers event in the imagery and seeing it today as well. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is that this is a massive event. As I said just a little earlier, Greg Braden has talked about how that event was seen in the Schumann. No, sorry, not in the Schumann. Greg Braden has talked about how that event was seen in the geomagnetics, that it made a noticeable spike in energies, and that the only explanation, there was no geomagnetic explanation for it except for a global response from the living human beings, is my understanding of what he concluded from that on that day. Ooh, I'm getting into this energy. Whew. So number two, I think it's important if you're talking about energy trends and electromagnetic energy, which is what the Schumann is. Okay, so when we look at the Schumann chart, what we're looking at is a chart of electromagnetic energy. And it's in a range of 0 to 40 hertz on the space observing system charts. And that happens to coincidentally be in the same range as human brain waves. Okay. So there are other reasons as well why I think that the charts are relevant to the human experience, but that's a big one. So when you're looking at the picture, my feeling on it is that we are looking at a map of human consciousness. Now, are there other things going on between 0 and 40 hertz that could be on the chart? Yes. Okay. But I would say that those are also in the realm of human activity. And that's why I continue to look at the chart that way. For example, if there are militaries communicating with their submarines in the very low hertz range, which I explained in my last Schumann Live before that abruptly ended, um, that's on the chart, but that's part of the human activity. That's part of what our human collective is doing on this planet. So I kind of view it as valid to the fact that there may be transmissions of who knows what sorts on the chart beyond that. Um, so we've got three reasons why I think that why this is relevant in terms of the information about seeing why 9/11 would appear on the chart. Number one, human consciousness. Number two, it potentially affected the geomagnetic energies, and we know that from data. And number three, um, this was an event that affected the world. So it was a global event that significantly affected humanity. And as time has gone on related to this event, what we, some of us anyway, probably many of us have determined is that it was like a big chess move. Like, if you're playing a game and you make that big move, that and you have a strategy and you make that big move, that this is what that was by certain forces, right? Who maybe wanted to gain control of whatever they want to control humanity, actually, in humanity. Let's just say that somehow. Okay, so um, so those are the reasons that I feel that this event would be reflected, why it's valid to say, you know what, this could appear on the Schumann. And the thing is that it's my view that this event has echoed through time. Now, how could an event echo through time? Um, on a personal anecdotal experience level, it's probably pretty understandable, right? Because you're going to study it in school, you're going to remember it, your parents or grandparents are going to remember an historical event, or there'll be a group consciousness about it. But what I came to the conclusion of from the Schumann resonance charts, it was looking at the Schumann charts that caused me to believe that that event about, a little over 20 years ago is very relevant somehow, and I'll just say in ways that I don't understand, to what is happening today in the world. And I'm talking about the towers event 20 years ago in New York City. I I get emotional when I think about it for some reason. Okay, so here's the thing. So here's what we're seeing, okay? We're seeing the blue is the lines on the Schumann, and the gray is my clairvoyant vision of the images. And I know I'm not the only one that sees this because so many of you, we've been talking now for 3 years, and so many of you will comment about images that you see. So what I do is here, I'm just gonna move it up to the camera for a sec. Okay. I take the lines and I connect them like that. And that's one of the towers. Now, going back to 2019, when I made the first video on that event related to the Schumann, the towers were next to each other consistently. And throughout 2019, I could see and the spacing of the vertical lines, like I had physically been to the towers myself. I grew up not too far from there, and I knew what it looked like. And so when I would look at the Schumann, it would just pop. And the thing is that the explosions that happened were where it showed on the Schumann were in the same places. Roughly speaking, if you made a 3D image of that picture, it was in the same place as what actually happened. And so, roughly, okay, so and it was interesting because that event would evolve in pictures. Now, here it is, 2023, and I'm just seeing one tower, which is so interesting to me. And it's been very interesting because over the last, now we're going on the 5th year since I've been seeing the towers, really noticing them in the chart. They've gone from 2 to 1. And over the 5 years, the images of explosions have decreased and decreased and decreased and decreased until sometime this winter. I it happened last year as well, but this winter I saw the tower perfectly clean, no explosions. And I thought, I think the first time I saw this would have been last year in 2022. I'm talking about the images on the Schumann resonance chart, in my view, of the historic event that happened in New York with the towers. So sort of towards the end of 22 into 23, what I perceive is that human consciousness, as revealed by, in my view, by images on the Schumann, is shifting around the meaning of this event and clarifying and cleaning up because the images of the explosion aspect with the buildings has decreased and then completely was cleared. What I'm foreseeing, okay, is is a resolution of this event for the people, like a healing of this event. And what I've always felt would heal it would be justice. Justice, whatever that means in the human world, okay? But some level of justice, which I think we've already begun to have. If I was on Rumble, I might go into more detail about it, but I'm not going to. Um, so, so justice would heal it, and I think the truth coming out would be healing. Not for everyone, okay, because there are people who are sort of very much attached to the narrative that and would be very disrupted. if the narrative was known to perhaps be different. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a video in here. I'm going to put a video link in, and this is a video link I did with someone who lived through whose family lived through that event and was in the New York City area. It was really truly amazing. And so that's a live interview. And what we did was we looked at photographs of the event from a certain perspective. It's very spiritual. It's very healing. If you know anyone who was traumatized by that event, this is actually probably a great video to send them. So same thing as I do with the Schumann, what we did was we looked at the light and images that were displayed and the deeper spiritual meanings of this. And now that we're in 2023, it's become widely acknowledged that there is a spiritual war that clearly appears to be going on the earth, okay, and that humans are engaged in it, whether or not they're conscious of it. They're either being affected if they're unconscious and unconscious about it, or they're consciously engaging or observing it. Now, in terms of there being a spiritual war, once you start to learn spiritual skills, energy skills, um, and God, and in a God connected way, soul connected way, divinely sourced and connected way, then then that starts to amp up to a new level. You know how you may choose to participate or engage with what's going on, because the most simplest version of that is prayer, and asking for God's help, praying for you know praying for outcomes. I always say in alignment with the highest good, because I give the outcomes to God, right? I have trust and faith over that, but I don't want to get too much into the spiritual war aspect, but um the first image that we look at in the Finding the Light video was so fascinating, okay? Because it's a image of one of the towers that had just been attacked. It's still burning and on fire. And when you look at it, it was incredible. There's black smoke and white light in this image in the Finding the Light video. And the black smoke literally looks like a dragon or a monster just chomping down on the building, even with a red eye. Okay, the area that was hit looks like a red eye, and then the white light is literally shaped like, the images of Archangel Michael where he's just standing and he's pointing and he's got his big wings, okay? It looked like that. And my girlfriend who I interviewed, you know, she said that she felt like it looked like Jesus Christ, for example, in that statue in Brazil where he's got his arms spread out. And this celestial figure in the first image we discuss in the Finding the Light video that's linked here, the celestial image is literally, it's almost like it's holding the building. And now that we have such an awareness of the spiritual war that's going on this planet, it's so potent and so much more meaningful that we that we talked about it whenever that was filmed. So back to the current Schumann chart. So the single tower has been appearing again. And I have the live link in there. The first three letters are SOS on the live link, Space Observing System. And what you'll see is the prominent vertical lines are, um, you can connect them to make a building that looks like the towers, because this is what the towers look like. Okay, they had this kind of spacing between the sides of the building, And as I said, since I had been to the towers, been parked right in front of them, looked up at them, a handful of times when I was in New York City for work. I knew what they looked like. And it's interesting. Let me just see if I just want to see if it's clear or not, because let me just see what it was. Okay, so no. All right. So in the current image, okay, there's white rods of energy, white white resonance lit up and red towards the top of the building. Now it's interesting because in the tweet that I linked from was it May 8th? Let me just see if I want to look at that what I linked to you all really quickly, because there it is, May 8th. I want to see if this is the one where I said I talked about the rats. Yeah, no, that wasn't it. Okay, so let me go back to, let's see. Yeah, that's today's. Mhm. Hold on, I want to see if um, I can find it really quickly, because there was an image of the tower with a little red um, bit of red resonance this week in the past 7 days. And what I said in my Twitter was that the rats were caught. That was my intuitive hit on this. So I want to show that to you. So I'm just looking through my Twitter really quickly, because I would like to get that. I think it's a good part of the story here. So I'm going to take the time to look for it. One sec here. There's still construction going on down there. Okay. There it is. I found it. Ah, so cool. Okay. Okay, so here, I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to call this one rats. R A A T S. Rats. Rat. Okay, so that's the rat tweet. And I want to tell you what I saw in this image clairvoyantly. Um, right now I have to find where I put it. There it is. Okay. Da- Rat tweet, where are you? Okay. All right. So when I saw this image, which occurred on May 5th, so it was on Saturday, um, this past Saturday, it was the day after the full moon and the eclipse. And what I saw was this image of mostly red, had a little bit of white in it, and it was at the very, very top of the image. It it went from about 4 to just past 8 hertz. So that means in the dream time, right? In the astral. This is my interpretation of 4 to 8 hertz in the subconscious, that something related to the Twin Towers event even had been caught. Okay, this is how I interpret this. I think it goes beyond that as well. I just call it the bad guys. Something, the bad guys. There was something that happened where that energy was seen or caught somehow. Um, and that was on Saturday. And what I said for that image was, like a rat in a trap, red energy is caught. It came out of the darkness into our consciousness, and we finally see it. And what does that mean? So, I'm going to invoke a space of sacred discharge imbued by the violet flame. So I just want to explain that because I work with energy, it's important to follow certain rules. And the rule that I'm following, or the rule for energy creation that I'm following by saying that I'm declaring a space of sacred discharge as I speak with you imbued by the violet flame, is this: that I choose not to create with the words I'm about to speak. I'm just telling a story in a space of neutral energy. So we've had a saying on Earth, okay? We've had a saying in our Western culture. It might be in other cultures as well. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And the reason that we had that saying was it was a warning, right, to stay away from that energy, anything that you might see, hear, or see, hear, or and don't speak about it. So this is what I'm addressing right now is both my interpretation of the Schumann image from Saturday, but also an aspect of spiritual warfare on the other hand. Because as a society, and I'm specifically talking about Western society because it's the only one I really know, okay? Um, I've lived it, right? So what that did was that if we had a sense of any of that going on, we kind of scurried away. We turned away. And what that did was it allowed evil to essentially create its own environment. And those were the times. Okay. It created like a net, a web of activity of followers of that. Okay. And so this is an earthly aspect of the spiritual war that it became present, right? In in ways that we are finally seeing. And we bear responsibility in that we turned away, we didn't speak of it, we didn't look at it, we didn't listen. In a way, it protected us during a time, an energetic time, and a time in our history when we didn't perhaps did not have the tool sets to deal with that energy or to understand the greater context that we of what was happening on our planet that we were living through in the past. Okay, but now it's 2023 as I'm recording this on May 9th, Tuesday, and many human beings, many of us in Western society have just, I mean, our awakening is just, I mean, for me, it's been like a hockey stick, right? For me, I started in 2011 and I just, like straight up. And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that as well. I'm going to tie this back to the Schumann resonance in a second. So I have friends who were awake 20, not 20, 30, 40 years ago, and I've said to them, I'm glad you guys did that because with my personality, that would have been pretty hard for me to. I'm just, I'm more of a let's just do it person. So everything is in divine timing and perfection in my life, and in life, I believe. So now what is happening is that we're bringing the light, right? We're bringing our awareness mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and um, physically, across the bodies of the human being, across our human experience. We're bringing the light to the shadows of life. And what happens when you do that, the darkness gets lit up. Okay. Anyone who's ever done healing work or had healing work done to them will know that this is the case, right? That when you experience healing, sometimes, especially when it involves energy or prayer or meditation, where you really your energy and your love and light is expanding in your experience, you have an amazing awakening. And then what will happen is over the next few days, like something crazy, the shit hits the fan, excuse my language, um, or you tumble into an emotional state Because why? Because when the field was lit up, from the amazing experience, you then saw, oh, well, there's also this. Now the light's on in the room, and that was dark before, and I can see it. So when, going back to the Schumann resonance, when the red lit up at the top of the tower, okay, on Saturday, May May 6th, no, May 5th. I believe that what this is saying to us, okay, so I believe it's in our human consciousness, and the image of the Schumann reflects this back to us, that something related to whatever the force was, or the beings, or the people, or whatever, that this event, the causes of it truly are, something's caught. It's caught in a trap, okay? And I'm very excited about that and to see what could happen next. And so the next image is the image of today. And in today's image, let me go back up. Let me go up to there on my screen. Okay. So in today's image, we have the image from yesterday, May 8th, where parts of the tower are lit up in white rods at the top. So there's something at the top of the towers in that event, okay? Something that happened, some information. I don't really know what it was. I'm just telling you what I see in the imagery. There's a focus on the top of the towers, which is very interesting because that's not where they were hit. And so I don't know why. I don't know what it's about. I just know that there's something that the human consciousness, right? Our human consciousness has perceived it. Something related to what happened at the top of the towers, the floors closest to the roof and the roof itself. Now, my friend and I have watched, I mean, it must be dozens of videos of this event over the years. And if you've watched any of those over literally the past 10 years, on YouTube and other channels, other video platforms, what you know is that you saw some possibly strange things in those videos. Since I'm on YouTube, I'm not going to go into details about it right now, and I don't feel like I'm ready to talk about that. But at least one of them was the top of the tower, one of the towers. So that I remember. Now most of those videos are just gone, and I don't know where they are now. But so that's the first piece of information. Okay, that there's that's the second piece. The first was something caught related to this event. The second was there's some kind of information about something at the top of the towers or the floors closest to the top. Now, here's the third piece, and that was on the Schumann resonance chart for May 9th, today, as I record this. So now this is what I want to show you. So the image was here's the spacing of the vertical lines. Now, I just want to say this. Obviously, every set of vertical lines does not relate to the towers. On the chart, I rely on my memory of what the buildings look like. I rely on my intuitive hit and impressions, and I also look at the astrology because I progress the chart for this event periodically. Okay, I keep an eye on it. Because it was such a big deal in my life, as I mentioned, you know. So I'm looking for one more video because I have a video where I progressed the chart. There it is. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna put this in. So that's that video, and this video is progressed chart. Now, what is amazing, okay, is that last summer was it last summer? Let me just make sure before I say this. It was yeah, okay, I recorded that video on July 21st, 2022, the progress chart. It is incredible. Let me see if I can bring it up on my phone because I wanna show you the picture if I can. The progress chart made an incredible I think it's a 16-point star, but it's a multi-point star. And let me just look here for a sec. Um, I'd love to show you this star image. So let me just take a second to find this. Here it is. Where are you? There it is. Okay. And okay. Okay. So I'm going to pull it up here on my phone for you because this was amazing. All right. So here we go. Okay. I'm going to put it close. Do you see that star? It's just it's just incredible. I mean, that I don't remember the exact date of progression I made that. It was close to July 21st, 2022. The details are in the video, but yeah, just like you don't see a chart like that very often. I showed it to my teacher Andrea. We had a really good discussion about it, but it's very intense. Okay, that level of energy, very intense. And that level of triangles in the chart. And what came to me intuitively, and I talked about it in the video, but in the summer of 2022, something crystallized in the progress chart. Okay. And it was a turning point for the energies, was my feeling. So now we have on today's chart, okay, we have this image that does not look like one of the towers. Okay, so that's where I was going with this. Let me get back to it. Okay, so this is not the spacing of the towers. Now, I did, I lived outside New York City, so I was very familiar with the buildings in New York City. And there is one building in particular that you may see on the news very often that looks like. Okay. And when I put if I put this in an article, I will put a picture of this building. I'm going to just draw it bigger. Okay. Maybe some of you will recognize it when I put it up here. Okay. It's very big, very thin, and very wide. So you may recognize that as the United Nations building. And so when I saw this in the chart today, from the towers to the United Nations, what I got was an intuitive hit on the energies that the idea that this event, was supposed to symbolize by whoever was, by the forces behind it, um, was to go from the Twin Towers event to the United Nations, from uh, a multipolar world, right, where you have nation states theoretically running their own countries, and to one where you had unipolar, or well, there's not a pole then, but a uniparty uniparty rule, okay, through the United Nations. That is what human consciousness, in my view, is saying on the chart today. What we're doing is, how I see this is, we are telling ourselves, look, guys, this is what the idea was. This is what the plan was. Why would we do that? Why would we communicate messages to ourselves in a map of group consciousness? which theoretically is also just floating in the air around us. So, in a range of 0 to 40 hertz, the same range as our brain waves. So, if we can transmit our own human brain waves, here's a question: can we also pick up transmissions from others? Well, if you're a human being, which I'm thinking most people who are watching this are, you know that you can pick up impressions, you can pick up ideas, you can pick up sometimes thoughts, you can pick up impulses that relate to other people. Now, it's most noticeable when it's in your own personal life. Um, it's most noticeable in your own life. And, um, I thought of someone and then they called me, is the most obvious example. Um, and I think there's a speeding up of this with technology. And as young people are so technology savvy, it's just like a second nature to you. And so I think that it's even speeded up, right, for young people. The ability to transmit, but also to receive. Um, so why would we put images out into our consciousness and then, for ourselves? I think there's a couple of reasons. We are storytellers, right? Human beings are storytellers. This is well known, right? When you study or look at tribal cultures, well, all of us existed in tribal cultures. That's just what there was, right? Across humanity, across the earth, we had tribal cultures, and little by little, that has evolved to where we are at today. And but there's still enough tribal cultures around that we know, right, that storytelling is a big part of our history. And in even in Western civilization, where I don't know how long it's been since we've lived in tribes, but we had fairy tales, right? So you have the traditional fairy tales that have been told, which are very similar to tribal stories in that they are telling stories of human experience to educate, to teach, and to give warnings or to give advice. So I see the Schumann resonance as a reflection of human storytelling, right? Because we see images in it. And of course, different people see different images because we have different backgrounds, orientations, histories, and all the rest of it. So that's one reason why we might, tell ourselves a story in the Schumann images. And I'm right now talking about the story that I'm seeing, in today's chart, for example, of moving from the Twin Towers event to the United Nations, and what I just said, that we're telling ourselves a story that the event that happened 20 something years ago was meant to do that culturally to humanity, not to one group or one nation, but to the world. And I do not consent to that. So I just put that out there. I do not consent. I consent to God's plan, not the plan of, random whoever people are. I don't know who they are. Okay, so random plans. Okay, so I'm just going to evoke a violet flame, space of sacred discharge again. Back over that, what I just said. Now, there's another reason why we might be giving ourselves images and telling ourselves stories. Now, when it goes back to the idea of spiritual warfare, if you know anything about spiritual warfare, then you understand that what happens in our lives, and this is also my personal view, but it can be a part of spiritual warfare. What happens in our lives is between us and God, right? We're incarnated as living souls, divinity in human form, and the human form is divine as well, in my view, right? God made us, basically, is what I'm saying. Our interactions with others are governed by rules. I talked about the rules in my last live, and I talked a little bit about why it's important to set energy parameters and that there were rules around how energy works, how reality works, that are spiritual rules. Mhm. So, one of the rules, one of the spiritual rules related to the individual relative to the collective and the individual relative to other individuals or other groups is that there has to be agreements in place. Now, a lot of people see these agreements as, this is a traditional way that this is seen. The traditional way that this is seen is, you I don't know, you're talking to God or your guardian angels or your soul, whatever, you make up a little plan and then you incarnate into a living, a baby, and then you're born and you have this soul plan that you carry with you, that's invisible, right to you. That's sort of the traditional um, view on how that might work. And for me, what I've come to the conclusion of is that creation is much, much more than that. Much, much more varied, much, much more complex, much, much more capable, right? And it took until I was able to um, learn how to generate a fifth dimensional state of being in my field and have communion with my own soul and conversation with at the level of the soul for me to start to understand this. So I'm going to share with you what I received right from this experience, and it's absolutely beautiful. But what I received was that it's moment to moment. It's moment to moment. So the creator, right? Creation energy, it shifts literally moment to moment. And the just incredible thing is how it unfolds in divine perfection. And over and over again, I've seen it in my life, and I've talked to others and seen the perfection in their lives, even in the tragedy, even in the trauma, and then how that can develop, how that unfolds. It's it's humbling and stunning to to observe these things in life. So what I feel is that maybe there's an idea of a soul plan, but I truly believe it's moment to moment at the level of our soul in our engaging with the creator and the souls of everyone and everything else involved. And what that means is that moment to moment, our reality can shift. We can make new choices. We can create something new that we can go on to a completely new and different path. So, okay. So, you guys have been chatting. I'm so glad because I actually couldn't see the chat until just right now. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I look forward to reading that in a second. I just found that. I was like, is nobody chatting? But no, there it is right there. You know what? I just want to say one thing. I'm so glad to see you, Val. I was thinking about you actually recently because I thought once in a while you've commented and I thought, I haven't heard from Val in a while. I'd love to hear from her again. So thanks so much for being here. I love your comments and messages over the years. I really appreciate it actually. And all of you. I want to stay on the story. So I think I'm not gonna read the chat. Okay. So what I wanted to say is why would we tell ourselves a story if creation actually evolves moment to moment? If our agreements with others and the collective evolves moment to moment. Do you see where I'm going with this? We would tell ourselves stories because we are presenting new agreements, new ideas, new potential storylines that we might like to. I feel like I'm speaking to the collective, right? To all to to humanity is we're all here in a big group, and we look at it and we say, do we want to do this? Do we want to live that timeline? Do we want to live that timeline? I know it's just absolutely amazing, isn't it? It's just phenomenal. And so I think this is what we're saying to ourselves right now on the Schumann. We're saying, hey guys, so you remember that thing that happened like 20 something years ago and we all were traumatized, and then it eventually led up to this thing that happened starting 3 years ago where we all got locked in our, we're told to stay in our houses and not leave literally around the world, all coordinated together. So we've gone from nation state to single decision making power. I do not consent. I'm just gonna put that out there. I do not consent. I'm in a space of sacred discharge, just reflecting. This is what I see in the Schumann. I'm telling a story. And I think what we're doing was we're saying, hey guys, you know that thing that happened? And just so you know, we the human collective, the 7.7 billion of us, we now get that this is the story being offered to us. And now we can make a choice. Now we make a choice. Is this what we want? Do we want our history to turn into this future? Yes or no? Why? Because those who, the energy, I'm just going to talk about it in energy, the forces that want this creation have to have our permission. We're not helpless here. It um it kind of annoys me when I see people talking as if pronouncements are predetermined actual events for the future. No, they're not. Literally, creation changes moment to moment. That's how flexible our reality is. Okay. And on my in my talks during the human energy workshops that I do, and I will be having one this year, um, I go into some pretty interesting stories about this, but I'm not going to do that on this live because, you know, um, I got to save that for when I'm in more intimate groups. Okay, but our reality can shift moment to moment. Dramatically amazing things can happen. But what it requires is for us to make conscious choices. And I'm literally talking to the level of you get to decide about this. You get to make a choice. It's between you and God. And this is what I talked about in my video um, on, hold on, I'm just going to, I want to refer back to it and it's in the links here. So it's my video, and I wrote my experience. Okay, so it's that YouTube link. It's right above that. My experience with the 9/11 dreams. This is what happened. Okay, I was offered a choice, literally from the level of my soul. I was shown that if I kept going to New York City, I would be there and built the buildings would be falling and there would be incredible huge chunks of concrete falling from the sky. Okay. It was inconceivable. When I had those dreams, it was inconceivable that that could happen. There was no way that I thought that that was possible. All I knew is I had a history of my dreams are true. My dreams come true. And so I just thought it was a warning. I didn't understand that it could be a real event. but I was given the choice at the level of my soul, right? This is how what I believe, that this is the soul communicating with us, offering the living human that it enlivens, the soul enlivens us and is us. I am that soul. It's just I don't, I can't remember what it's like to be up in heaven or in that amazing energy. Now I have some ideas about it because I've been shown over the years different experiences. But that's what I was offered. I was offered, "Hey, want to participate in this?" This is and I didn't know at the time this is what was being offered. The group collective is going to go through this event. Do you want to be there? Okay? That was the offer from my soul. I had the precognitive dreams. I quit my job and completely left my field because I didn't want to be in it. So it was actually, I didn't understand what was happening, but it was a conscious choice to disconnect from the collective creation that was going to occur. And I had a dream once, twice, and then after it happened, I was given a third dream showing me what would have happened, and it was not nice. It was not pretty. It was terrible. But, I chose no again, even in that dream, I chose no. And time is that flexible, that making a decision in the future affects the past. Okay. Now, someone put something out about this on Twitter, and it was technically needed to be tweaked. Can I remember what they said? Let me just see. No, I can't. Okay. So I'm just going to skip it. But essentially, traumatic events that happen in the past, the choice point ultimately occurs in the future. Why does that happen? I'm going to give one statement to explain why that happens. We are more enlightened and more conscious in the future, more awake in the future. And we make the choice there if we want to be present in the past. But we can also be given the choice in the past. And that's what happened. And so what I did was I withdrew from the participation in the collective event. So did it happen? Yes. Did I participate with my physical body present? No, because I made a conscious choice not to participate in that group creation of humanity. Okay. And I realized that there were forces that caused the event, but it affected all humans around the world, essentially, in terms of the global events that have occurred since then. And so it was a creation of humanity. Now, how could I say that? No, it was it, sorry. No, it was a horrible thing the bad guys did to us. Okay. All right. So when you have that orientation, and when I had that orientation, I was creating from victim mentality. So when you shift to a state of wholeness, you understand that you had to give permission at some level, even if it was the very highest levels of your soul. And I have seen this, there's quite a few really powerful men speaking now. And one of the things that I saw one of them saying, and I don't remember which one it was, um, that I believe it. Well, I don't want to say it because I don't exactly know, but what he was saying was to he was saying to become a man. Okay, you choose to take responsibility for everything that happens in your life. Okay, and yeah, I love watching those videos. I love watching videos about men talking about being manly. Because I love male energy. I love male energy. Um, so, but and because I think it's wonderful and healthy and cool. But the fact is that that's the same idea for raising your consciousness. To raise your consciousness, to take the middle path, to become a spiritual warrior, right? To fully embody the soul, to fully embody a state of wholeness as a living human being within your own energy field. Okay. It requires us, I believe it requires us to take responsibility for everything that's happened in life. And yes, I'm talking about that horrible thing. I'm talking about that. And I have done this in my own life, so I'm not saying you guys have to do this. I got off easy. No, that didn't happen. Okay, I had to take responsibility and I didn't have to, but I chose to take responsibility for everything, even the most horrible things. And understand that sometimes I had to go to the most highest levels of agreements, being for some reason, as a soul, my soul agreed to this, and I just have no idea why. I have no idea what benefit that would have brought me at the time I chose to say that. Once I chose to take responsibility for everything that happened in my life, including, the bad guy did that to me. And I'm teasing a little. I try to make caricatures lighten to lighten the energy, to make it lighter. Okay, because the reason I do that is because we have a wounded inner child, and that's what the wounded inner child is doing usually. It's acting out, it's tantruming, it's saying this isn't fair, it's crying, it's feeling wounded, he or she, or, so so the feelings and experience of the inner child, the wounded and traumatized child within, is real, true, and requires love, compassion, and care. But when, as an adult, we're one with that wounded child, that's when we are choosing, usually unconsciously at first, to be a victim. And we can then consciously choose to move out of that. And what that involves is the separation of the adult that I am now, and the understanding that there is a part of me that's wounded. The adult that I am does not have to act out for her, like in my case. My wounded inner child, it's my job as the adult to care for her and to love her and to listen to her and to let her do her tantrums, or whatever I needed to do over the years that I've done this work. And so when you're able to then step into, okay, now I'm the adult, now how do I want to deal with this? Then that's when I was able to say, I want to make a conscious choice. I will take responsibility for everything that happened to me and her and the child that I was, or whatever, on the spectrum of how old you were. If it's in the past, it's younger than you. So that wounded part of myself, I will take responsibility for taking care of that part of me, and I will acknowledge that I chose this for a reason that I don't understand. Well, once I moved into that, the blessings, benefits, and rewards started flowing, okay, in incredible ways. And I don't want to, keep going down that path because I want to get back to the story in the Schumann resonance. But do you see what I'm saying? That many times I talk about how there's no separation between the science and the spiritual. And this is why. When you are linking the human experience, right? God flows through it all. The living, light of the soul is what enlivens us. And if we try to separate God from human events, then we only get a part of the story, and we limit our own understanding by doing that. And so it's my view that there are forces that understand this, and that's why they only want science to talk about things that can be measured as relates to the human body. Do you want to know the other reason why that is? Why someone would want that? I'm going to tell you why. It's because not everyone in human form has access to everything the human body can do. Okay. It requires the engagement of the soul. Now, we can be unconscious that we're engaging at a soul level and just boom, we're there. Okay. Because we have a natural human talent and ability. It's just part of being human. And so, I've met so many people that did not have to go on this, crazy long journey of, trauma healing, whatever. And they just, they had it turned on. They're younger people who just came in with that, and I just say, God, you guys, I'm happy for you. That's actually, what I say. But here's the other reason. Okay, so sometimes a human being does not have access because of the level of trauma, and this is a situation that that we can have a lot of compassion around because there are very many traumatized people. And the other thing, though, is that when a human being becomes traumatized, then they can have trouble accessing that creative power, but it's still in us. The God source is always in us if we're alive, if we are alive. Okay, even if we're not connected with God, the soul is there powering this body. It's like an eternal power source, that keeps the body alive and allows us to have that's why we have free will choice, right? Because we don't have to have active engagement with the soul at the soul level to make decisions, to do actions. So, yeah. So some people become run by other forces. And it's my view that these other forces, they're more limited. Their physiology is more limited than the human physiology. And because of that, they can't go where a human can go. They can't do what a human can is fully capable of. Even if they're in the human body and that body could do it, they only have access, I believe, to a smaller portion of what that body can do, what the human body can do. So, because it's actually the soul that provides these more expanded experiences. When you engage with the soul, right, in a much more cooperative way, in a co creative way. And that's where it gets really, really cool and interesting. When you start to talk to that part of yourself and engage and make decisions. And, I've heard many, many sermons and sermons about be guided by God every day. This is what I'm talking about. That you wake up in the morning and you see what that divinity, where is that guiding you in this moment? How is that guiding you? What is my choice for today? Right. So, and that's what those preachers are talking about. And so here's the choice that we see on the Schumann resonance chart today. And it's so amazing that this is on the chart today. And I happen to be giving my live stream. It's just in divine perfection once again. I just, how did I know when, I kept praying about it because I swear to you guys, I woke up so many times since my last live stream on Thursday, thinking I'm going to do it today. I'm just going to get on there and do a live stream. But I kept getting to wait and to do it tonight, Tuesday night, and then this is what's on the chart. So it's just pretty amazing. So we have on the Schumann resonance chart what I'm calling two images today. One of the towers of a tower, the tower, and I view this as the tower in New York City, right, from the event 20 years ago, and that this event, we're telling ourselves, and here's the United Nations building. Okay, so this is what I see on today's chart. We're telling ourselves, hey guys, this is the choice. This is what this event was meant to do. This is what's been being worked towards over the last 20 something years. And over the last very intense, 3 years, and now we're going into our fourth year. Um, since 2020, right? So we have to agree, humanity has to agree for something to be created, anything to be created, and I don't consent to this. I don't agree to it. And if the human collective agrees, I've already told God. Talk to God about it, like you're talking to your best friend. I've already said no. I choose no. Nope. And my choice is that the human collective also chooses no, just so you know. I just ask for this. I pray that we all choose no and that we don't go that way. And then you know what I do? I give it to God because my human mind does not know what's best. My human experience, I can say I want one thing, but the creator of all that is, right? Which in moment to moment has the omnipresent awareness of every particle of energy of all that is, and that can see the divine links, the patterns, the flow of energy, that can give me a dream years before something happens so I can make a choice of whether or not to participate. Something that amazing, you know, knows better than I do. So I express my view and then I just give it to God and I say, in line with the highest good, you got this, you know what I want. And this or better, right? That's what I was taught early on, this or better. Well, now what I say is in alignment with my highest good. Because I know at the highest levels, spiritually, my highest good is the highest good of all. Yeah.